Doamnelor, domnilor, sunt Marius Constantinescu, interviu eveniment astăzi la Ediție Limitată, cu ocazia prezenței la București a unuia dintre cei mai semnificativi creatori de spectacol la nivel mondial din ultimele decenii. A fost invitatul special al primei ediții a conferinței privind creativitatea în dans, organizată de Simona Șomăcescu și Universitatea Națională de Artă Teatrală și Cinematografică din capitală. Ca atare, am profitat de prezența lui aici pentru a sta de vorbă cu nimeni altul decât Dimitris Papaioannou. I was thinking the other day of a way to start this conversation, and I remembered that recently somebody asked me to describe or to define music, and I said that's quite impossible because it would be like describing or defining the sky itself in all its infinity of nuances and textures and colors and rhythms. What is it the most difficult to describe or to define for you?
What I do, which I'm usually asked to in interviews like that, it's very difficult for me to define what I do. I don't know exactly what it is. But also what is difficult for me is to define what is a source of inspiration for creation. This is very difficult to define. It seems that the only answer is life itself.
Mm-hmm. Would there be something more fascinating to you than the human body movement?
Yes, to create music.
Did you ever try?
I don't have this talent.
You stated more than once that, talking about inspiration, like you said previously, that sometimes you draw inspiration from painting, from painters. You yourself studied painting. If I asked you some of the most inspiring artists of humanity for you, what would you say?
Well, from the recent ones, I would say Yannis Kounelis, and still alive, the last painter alive is David Hockney. Mm-hmm. But I do have a long list of painters and sculptors that I deeply admire, and it would devour the whole conversation.
But you also go back in time. I have seen you quoting in your performances also Rembrandt.
Yes, of course,
yes.
Botticelli and
totally.
And Da Vinci, of course. But there is an encyclopedia of art history in my head because I am an art lover as much as I am an artist. So. And because I studied painting, I have absorbed all this information. And as I am creating, the human body is one of the major themes of painting and sculpture. So, and it's part of my job. So as I am creating, I have the ability to identify a human form when lit in a certain way and when moving or resting in a certain way, which masterpiece it reminds. And then sometimes, if it helps the narrative of the show, I encourage this quote. But I never, ever go for the quote.
Yes.
I do not look at paintings and say, okay, let's
reproduce this.
No, never, ever.
Well, you also did comics in your beginnings.
Yes.
Is there something that you take from this comics approach and try to translate in your choreographic performances?
Yes. A lot.
Yeah.
A lot of things. I did comics. I did graphic novels, as they call them, and it was a way to construct a narrative through images, which taught me a lot about how to compose with small and big, and how to lead into an explosive image, things that are very useful in theater making. But also, being a comic lover, I was also an animations lover, and I am a boy that grew up with Disney. And the silly symphonies of Disney, the early Disney works, are a major influence of how I organize image with music. And an extension to that is my love to silent films that also have this kind of stylization because of lack of speech. There's a lot of exaggeration and stylization of movement, of human movement in space. If you think of Buster Keaton, for instance. Those are masters from me, and I use a lot of what I have understood that they are doing in order to communicate, so that I communicate my ideas as well.
I would have never said that the silly symphonies from Disney could have been some sort of an inspiration for you, even in the beginning, probably due to their bucolic universe, let's say.
But you can have a look at the cookies parade, which is actually a parade of cookies.
Yeah.
And then you can look at the Athens 2004 opening ceremony, and you can look at the parade of the images of Greek art, and then you will immediately realize the similarities.
Remaining in the time of your beginnings, some of them are deeply related to La Mama in New York and also Ellen Stewart. And I remember the famous Romanian theater and opera director Andrei Șerban.
Yes, he was her favorite.
Exactly, and he was telling me about the importance of La Mama and Ellen Stewart, and I would also like you to try to describe a bit that milieu in New York at the end of the 70s.
Well, like many things in my life, I entered an atmosphere at the time that it was already in decay. So I met La Mama right after the rise. So after Andrei Șerban, Ellen Stewart herself started directing, and in one of those directions, when she connected herself with Mintanaka, the famous Buto artist, that's when they came to Athens, and they were looking for some people as a chorus, and they selected me, and that's how I got in contact with them. So when I was invited by Ellen to go to New York, and she exposed me, she helped me because she exposed me to the New York art scene. This was an art scene that was already starting its decadence. So I was not lucky enough to experience the peak. But it was like a post-hippie atmosphere, and the things I saw there were eye-openers for me, and the atmosphere of this kind of solidarity, and the fact that she was somehow trying to inspire an unknown boy from Athens manifested a sense of generosity possibility. This was exactly the time also that the AIDS epidemic was hitting New York. So it was like the rise of a terror and the decline of a paradise. That's how I experienced this turning point of my life. But this chance that she gave me to be in New York, in a way, defined my choices afterwards.
You know, I was thinking that your creations, your performances are strictly related to the other's eye, those who see actually your performances. How do you think that the others' look, the others contemplating your performances, recontextualize our relationship with our bodies?
Well, I hope in a deeply personal way. I have no opinion on that. I have no idea. It seems that the sense of timing and the sense of unapologetic nudity resonates with the younger generations, and in a way it seems that it works as a healing mechanism for the frenzy sped up bombarding of images, like offering a meditative time, and also to the look of the human body only sexualized and not eroticized and spiritualized without the need of the limitations of sexuality, but without also avoiding that. But this opening up the possibilities of the human eroticism to be a vehicle for contemplation and not for arousement only.
Well, talking about that, there was a time when showing a naked body on stage would have made the talk of the day, let's say.
Yes, it happened in my beginning.
I know. And from then on, it seems that we have seen basically everything possible on stage. Are there still bits of public or society that find your work too much?
I guess so, but they do not express themselves like that, because I think what is good with theater is that people choose whether they want to come, and that's what's good with art generally. People choose whether they want to be exposed to those ideas or not. And this, of course, brings us to something that is very current, which is taking down works of art from national museums in Athens or from national theaters in Bucharest. Mm-hmm. We are grown-ups, and I don't think anybody should define what we are allowed or not allowed to see. Mm-hmm. And I think that if anything challenges our belief system, we just walk out. And we're not challenged anymore, and no harm done. Who needs low-fat yogurt?
I don't know, those who are on a diet.
I mean, art should be allowed to be daring and provoking and blasphemous, because it's the safe place where we can be violent and aggressive.
I think it's the only place where we can be...
It's the only safe place for humanity to practice those feelings and those oppositions, and just leave the theater or leave the gallery and decide for your own self what your belief system is. It's as simple as that.
Did you ever mind such opinions, leaving a performance of yours, saying this is not art?
No, listen, we all want to be loved by everybody. This is not possible, of course, because we grow up finding out that this is true. When I was discovered, when I was 50, I was discovered by the international curators, and the first city that discovered me, which actually launched me internationally, was Paris. And the Parisians, when they don't like a show, they just stand up quietly and they go. Mm-hmm. And I had people leaving, and I was very worried in this first appearance. And then I had the audience applauding and standing up and shouting and hitting their feet rhythmically, which is an affirmation. So they gave both to me without disrupting anybody. I don't like what I see, I go. I like what I see, I give it. I give the whole energy back. And I think this is the most civilized way to react to an opinion. Anyway, yes, when I was starting, nudity was talked about. Now, people don't talk about that very much, and it's about time we grew up, as if we don't know how we look like.
Născut la Atena în 1964, Dimitris Papaioannou a trecut de la statutul de artist underground în primii ani ai activității sale la cel de creator complex de spectacole în care coregrafia este doar o parte componentă. Interludiul Ellen Stewart, New York la mama, a avut o influență covârșitoare asupra activității sale, una care a mers din căutare în căutare. Unul dintre punctele culminante ale activității sale a fost regia și totodată conceptul creativ pentru ceremoniile de deschidere și de închidere a Jocurilor Olimpice de la Atena din anul 2004. I couldn't help but noticing that you used Strauss's Morgan with the voice of Jesse Norman for your Song of 1999 section in the Human Thirst performance. What does a music need to have in order to properly inspire you and want to create something starting from that music?
Well, I started from the music from another Richard Strauss song, Im Abendrot, with Jesse Norman as well. Listening to that song,
the last one.
I was inspired a whole story. And also listening to Fratres by Arvo Pärt, I was inspired of another story. And I think that's about it. Otherwise, I use music. I have something like a beginning of an image, or a beginning of a relationship, or a beginning of a scene, or an essence of a scene, or an ending of a scene, and I try music on. Music, I have to like the music, because I watch all shows. I am doing all the rehearsals and I watch all shows. I have to like the music, otherwise I suffer. And hopefully I have to like what I'm doing, which is not as easy as liking the music. In the past, I would select great music for my works. Then I realized that this is arrogant, because this implies that my work is equally great. Now I try to...
It can also be a form of respect, of admiration, of reverence.
Yes, but it's also using somebody else's genius in order to move the audience.
Yeah.
It's cheating.
Yes. In a way, yeah.
Yes. So I'm at my best when I don't use music at all, but this is very rare. I'm very rare at my best. But in order to use music, I try it on and I try to feel if it works. Sometimes music is not very good, but it works very well. And this is the best one can have. Sometimes the music is good and it works. Sometimes the music is great, and because it's great, it swallows you. Mm-hmm. It swallows and I see it very often in other people's work. Sometimes the beat is overwhelming. Sometimes, especially in dance, because my field is not exactly dance, there is a beat that helps the performers but does not help the audience, because the beat is so more powerful than what you see that the emotion dissolves inside you. So it's a mysterious thing that has to do with taste, what my taste in sound is, and what I understand that the scene needs to resonate.
I didn't want to interrupt you, but you said something earlier. When it happens that you don't like what you do, what happens then?
I'm used to it now. This is the case. And what I do, how I survive with that is that I'm working very hard, and I can honestly say to the spectators that this is really the best I can do. So it's impossible for me to do more than I can. But at least to reach the limit. In rare moments, I enjoy what I do. I enjoy showing what I do. Because the process I enjoy usually a lot. But liking what I do is another story. I'm a passionate art lover to like myself that much, you know.
But when do you feel the closest to what you wanted to deliver to the audience? Is it the time of the opening? Is it during rehearsals?
No,
is it after?
It has to do with the work itself.
Yeah.
There are very few things that I am proud that I have created. And proud means it works, I think. It works, and also it's an invention. It's something that I can say I created, and I contributed this ridiculous thing to the human history of imagination.
Why do you say ridiculous?
Because if you think of Leonardo da Vinci, we're kind of all ridiculous.
Yes, but thinking like that can also stop most of them from doing.
It doesn't stop.
I mean, if Leonardo is the only comparison term, then yes, we are all ridiculous. Then again, we need some sort of a confirmation in order to keep moving, keep searching, keep trying. Those who have some creation to offer to the others.
Maybe yes. I'm not for participation trophies. I'm not for pampering myself.
Yes.
I am for cruelty and a great strictness and joy, both. So I'm not saying that I don't respect myself. I have some things that I am proud that I have created, and as I said, I think they contribute a tiny bit in this huge history of human creation. But most of the times I fail. I am not ashamed to fail anymore. It always saddens me, but I know it's part of the procedure. And I think most of artists experience that.
Shall we also talk about the 2004 opening ceremony of the Olympic Games?
What do you want to talk about?
Well, the first thing that occurred to me, as someone who seems to favor the essence of the human emotion translated into movement and into performance with minimal technical insertions, I was very curious in which way was it challenging for you for the opening ceremony of the Olympic Games to integrate all the technical things that such a huge show has to have?
I did not only integrate them, but I challenged them to the maximum.
Yes.
The idea that I proposed had enormous technical challenges, and also it was the record-breaking light sources using, at this time, it was the show with the most light equipment that had done. So in order to create the grand spectacle, even though technology was simple, it was extremely complicated in its sequencing and in the size that it had to support. And this is one of the most important factors of this creation. I love creating images with technology. I don't like the narcissistic use of technology, but on a grand scale, there are two elements that you can use. Millions of people or thousands of people, or sculptural huge technology. China was after Greece. I would have been ridiculous to base my work in mass choreography. Greece is not about that. But the Chinese could do that, and they did that. We are for individuality. And so I created a landscape on stage instead of training undisciplined Greek masses to have synchronized movements.
Did you feel like a minimalist doing maximalism?
I felt that I was doing monumental minimalism.
Yeah.
That's what I felt I was doing.
I understand.
And I never thought if it would work or not, because it had never been done before.
Un adevărat filozof al dansului potrivit Dance Magazine, unul dintre primii 4 coregrafi ai momentului, în opinia publicației Le Figaro. Un autentic magician al scenei și al imaginii, așa cum scria The Times, sau poate chiar cel mai original coregraf al timpurilor noastre, așa cum scria în Italia La Repubblica. Dimitris Papaioannou a semnat peste 30 de spectacole totale, mergând de la efective de mii de oameni și până la forme foarte intime, întotdeauna însă rămânând fidel crezului și viziunii sale despre artă, despre viață și despre misiunea actului scenic. You know that one of the frequently used words in this period of time is zeitgeist. Everybody seems to suddenly know what zeitgeist is or suddenly feel the zeitgeist of today. What would you say that actually makes the zeitgeist of today?
I really have no idea. I have no idea. You know, now I'm 60. I don't even know that whatever I create is going to be relevant at what's happening now. Because we create from memory. So, my memories are old now.
How do you perceive the shifts made into the theatrical performance from yesterday up to today and tomorrow? Because we had a time quite recently when there was this invisible barrier between the audience and what was going on stage. Now it seems there is no barrier and the roles, the poles can always change. The audience becoming protagonist and what's happening on stage being actually something secondary.
Well, I don't quite agree. Mm-hmm. I don't see that much. I see that a lot of artists are playing with the idea of breaking the fourth wall and involving the audience. Very few people succeed on that, on doing it, and very people succeed on doing good art with it. And those who do, but very people succeed doing good art anyway, even if you use traditional methods or revolutionary methods, and that is okay. Very few people can be good artists, and that's why we have museums and institutions to collect the best of the past. In the present, there is always a lot of garbage going around, which is good, because very few are going, from this mass, very few are going to be the ones that will lead us to our next imagination of human existence, which is what artists do. So I'm not sure that I agree with you that there is a lot of breaking of the fourth wall. Very recently, I was watching the latest work of one of my most favorite directors, Romeo Castellucci, who not only doesn't break it, but also puts a gas between you and the audience so that the image is a little bit blurred, even accentuating that. So I'm not sure that this is true. Dance, theater, and performance are easily merged, and there is a kind of theater there's a kind of audience and theater and atmosphere that allows people like me to exist, or people like Romeo Castellucci, or Robert Wilson, or Pina Bausch, or the only thing that is a pity, music does not have this problem, is that there is also an art of choreographing, which is something that only Anne-Thérèse de Keusmaker does, and William Forsythe, they're still doing it. And there's also an act of directing the text. And we don't want to miss those pure forms of human creation, because we allow everything in between, all the hybrids to exist. I personally would not like this allowance of those hybrids to weaken the muscles of a director devoting her or himself to delivering the text, and a choreographer devoting her or himself in creating architectural magic with bodies without theatrical narratives. But this is a risk we are taking, because everything is evolving, so it's okay.
I love what you said earlier, architectural magic through the bodies. I really like that. I'm going to abandon my already prepared questions, because you said something earlier about art, and I wanted to ask you, hearing you, what makes good art, in your opinion?
This is a matter of, it's not a matter of personal taste, but it is not something that we can elaborate on an interview like that. There is a way that the content and the form harmonize with each other, and the element of sacredness and surprise, and the element of freedom, again, in certain variable proportions exist. And but it's not a recipe, because once it becomes a recipe, something else is good art. It shifts always. That's why we have contemporary art, because contemporary art is always trying to grasp the same human ideas and conceptions in ways that the established art cannot anymore, because it is established and it has lost the dynamic. That's why we evolve. We're not looking for anything new. We're looking for the same thing over and over again in different ways, because society changes. So there is something about the proportions of these elements that create good art. There is interesting art, useful art, good art, and great art. And there is loads of bullshit also.
Fair enough.
And this is something that is, again, inevitable. Don't be angry with it. Just have a personal criterion. And so bullshit is welcome. Generally, I think art is a human territory that is extremely useful to humanity, extremely useful to understanding and designing the future. And we should, in that territory, we should tolerate a lot of low quality, a lot of arrogance, a lot of blasphemy, a lot of many things because it's safe there in a way. We just choose.
Is great art the art that no longer stands as a witness to society, but also becomes a tool in changing, I don't know, political things, social things?
Well, this also is a dangerous question because political art that exists is both useful and dangerous. Generally, when art wants to be didactic, wants to have an opinion, wants to have one opinion against the other, is a dangerous thing because art is not that. But having said that, art that wants to be political can be great. And art that wants to be political can be dangerous. And art can become propaganda. There is good art that is bad propaganda. Leni Riefenstahl is the big example of that. Her art is great, but the god she prays to is the devil. So all these things exist. So also there is, nowadays you see it a lot, there is very good intentions art that is very bad art.
The way to hell is paved with good intentions.
Well, yes, but you know, because it's in order to cook a food that is art, you need many elements, and so I think art changes us in the way that it shows our next phase of development before it happens. I don't know if that is leading us or sensing it before we do. So when artists have been pioneers, like let's say Van Gogh, he was able to see things that we now see very easily, but we couldn't see then. Did he change us or did he show us where we are going? Or both.
How do you, the creator, the inventor of an act, change when you're also a part of it on stage? Do you perceive yourself differently?
This is a long story. I
don't do easy questions, you know.
I perform because I need to express some unspoken things of my existence in front of the audience, and so I create some works that satisfy this need of mine, and I do change because I have decided to go through this torture. That it also gives me pleasure, but mainly it's a torture. I do change because I feel that there is something that is unspoken that has been communicated and it cannot be defined. There is something, you know, there is something Bacchic about theater. Theater is the invention of Dionysos. There is something that is the representation in front of fellow citizens or the communal dance. There is something very deeply animalistic inside that. And it remains a mystery, thank God. That's why we still like live theater. We shouldn't bother. We have it everywhere, in our iPhones, in movies, it's streaming everywhere. Why bother? What is the pleasure of watching a dancer struggle in front of us? Why do we want to sacrifice? Why do we want to watch an acrobat? Or what happens when people act for the sake of us, in front of us, live? There is something there that is elemental to human nature and to our understanding of society. Because theater is an invention of society and a need of society. So I do change. I have changed every time that I have decided to go through that. There was a portion in me that needed that, and I tried to satisfy this need.
Do you also allow hazards to be part of your acts or improvisation?
Inevitably. No, not improvisation, but I seem to have created parts for me that are so technically difficult and so ambitious in manipulating elements like water or forces like light that I inevitably had to fail in front of everybody's presence. And because I don't like to fail like nobody does, this was also therapeutic in a way. Going against yourself sometimes is interestingly therapeutic.
Yes, going outside the comfort zone, as they say.
Yes, and also against your, a little bit against your nature. I mean, I'm not one of those humans that are struggling to discover what their nature is. I was lucky enough to enter a territory that is in harmony with my nature when I was very young. So from this kind of security, it's okay for me to go against my nature. Somebody that is struggling to find what they are is more dangerous.
Looking at your aesthetics, to me at least, it seems that again you focus solely on the core emotions translated into movement, and you remove all unnecessary accessorizing, fluff, glitter, everything. So my question is, would dance be another universal language as the music is?
Well, I take that as a compliment. I don't, looking at my work, I don't agree that I always succeed to do that, but I take it that sometimes I have succeeded to do that. It seems to be universal because from Japan to America and from Spain to Sweden, people can be moved. I do speak a language that tries not to have cultural restrictions. But I am Greek, and my personal heritage is a heritage that is extremely well known to the whole world, at least the Western one, or the ancient civilizations like China and Japan admire this kind of heritage. So, in a way, I'm lucky.
We have started this interview talking about the things hard to describe or to define, and I would like to finish our interview basically in the same way. Would you venture yourself into describing or defining dance?
Dance, I think I talked about it before. It's architectural magic with bodies in space. I do not do that job. It's not, calling me a choreographer is just for fun. It's not true. I'm a theater artist. But dance, yes. Dance is that when it's an art form. But dance is sacred when it's not an art form, when it's a communal thing. When people dance together, and especially in circles. This is when dance is sacred. It's something that you do. You don't watch. Dance is extremely important for the human beings to do. To watch it is not the same thing. It's an art form. It's a different thing. You experience some things through empathy and through your intellectual stimulation. But dance is something that you have to do. This is sacred for the human race.
And to do together, you say?
I think together is the best.
Togetherness then in
Yes.
dance. What happens when you dance alone, just for yourself?
It's you and the universe. But when you dance together, it's vibrating together with the society. This is what church wants to do when you're religious. And this is what, in a way, you can see that in concerts. This is sacred, but you have to do it because your biochemistry reveals something about the meaning of life. The fact that it has become an art form is not a degeneration, but a deviation from the origin of dance. Also singing, you have to sing.
Even for yourself or just inside yourself?
Yes, you have to sing. And life is better this way.
Doamnelor, domnilor, ediția limitată de astăzi se închide aici. Sunt Marius Constantinescu, trăiți nelimitat!